Hello everyone, Isaac Seguno here. In this video, this is going to be the first of a series of videos on how to create a Power App employee onboarding system. So this may be sort of contrived, I may mix things up as I go, but in doing this, I'm going to be going over certain concepts that I think as a Power Apps developer is important to understand. So for instance, I'll probably go over deep linking. I'll probably go over using the gallery. I know just go over navigating to a different screen. So just a little bit of concept that I've learned along the way. So let's get started. So what we're looking at here is the SharePoint list. It's an employee onboarding. I did not use, let me go to my site contents. I did not use this here. You can come if you create a list, you can use this template that they have here, but I didn't use that. I just started from a blank list and I added my own columns, but you can use it if you want to, if it fits whatever business profit process that you have. So one thing that I noticed, one thing that I did different when I created this list. So here it is here. Let me go to the settings. So in Power Apps, when it comes to, I have these choice columns here, right? Orientation, location, checklist, and have you been to orientation yet? Um, it has the value of yes and no, and the other columns have different values, obviously. And I noticed that in Power Apps, and even if you go to the Power Apps community, you would notice that a lot of people have issues in Power Apps as far as retrieving the values of a choice column. And in Power Apps, this has been one of the biggest headaches for me personally. It's inconsistent in how it works. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So what I did was I always create a single line of text um, column. I'm sorry, a calculated column. Let me change the calculated column. I can't. Let me just grab this name here. So this is what I usually do because when you want to render a choice column in Power Apps, as I said, it can be a headache. So what I do is, let me delete this column here. What I do is for each of my choice columns, I just create a calculated column. So I come here, create a calculated column. That would be the name of my orientation column. So I have a calculated column. And then I come here and I click on, where's my orientation? Oh, here it is. Sorry, it's okay. So what I do is so, and it's a single line of text, my calculated column. Oh, I thought I did. Paste, okay. So whenever they choose a value here, and I'll show you that in a second, it gets pushed to this calculated column, and then in Power Apps, I can just retrieve the value. And I mean that's so much easier than trying to deal with the column. So I'm gonna pause this video real quick and just do that for my other columns. All right, so I'm back. So for each of the choice columns that I have, my have you been to orientation yet? Orientation locations and employee checklist. I created a calculated column for each one so that I can pull those values when I create my Power Apps when I need to show it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a form, but I'm also gonna have an admin side to kind of track all of the different onboarding employee onboarding forms. So that's what I'm doing. So let me show you how this works. I'm gonna come up here, and if I'm gonna do this, and if I come over here, and if I choose to do this, McLean, Virginia, as you will see, oh, let me just put something in here. It's a required field. So as you can see what happened, it just automatically populated these fields here. So that's why I created that for that reason. Okay, so what I'm going to do is the way this works is, the HR person, when somebody comes on board, the HR person will just provide an employee ID, and the person's name. And when they do that, there's going to be a workflow that'll kick it off and send an email, um, to the new employee, because they'd also have an email by now. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just kind of making this stuff as we go. But first, let's go and create the form in Power Apps Canvas. Now, I can create the form here, but this would be this would be like a custom list form, and I don't want to do that. I want this to be an independent app. So let's go to Power Apps. So I already had it open. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to click on a new app, Canvas app. And let's see, this is our employee onboarding. All right. I'm going to keep it as a tablet, and I'm going to click create. All right. Let's not show this again. All right. So now we have this blank canvas. And so what we want to do now is we want to add our data source. So we're going to come over here to the left-hand side. You have this database icon here, data icon, and we are going to add data. It's going to give you some. Oh, that's my Google is talking to me. It must have heard something. Anyway, I'm gonna scroll down here to connectors, and I'm gonna look for SharePoint. You can have different data sources, as you can see here, Mail, Outlook. You can pull information from your OneDrive, even SQL Server, and they have a bunch of other connectors that you can use. But the connector I'm going to be using is SharePoint. Let me do a search on that again. SharePoint. Okay. You can use a Dataverse, but I'm not doing that. So let's come here. SharePoint. Choose my connection. And let me come up here and grab the link. So it wants the link. So I'm gonna come here. And I'm gonna go back here. All right. So now what I'm looking for is the employee onboarding. All right. So now that I have my employee onboarding, what I need to do now is, let me come here. I have my screen, and I'm going to rename my screen. And I'm just going to call this user form because this is the form that the user is going to fill out. So let's call that user form. And so now I want to create my form. So I'm going to come up here to the insert. I'm going to go to form, and I'm going to click edit. And so now that I have my edit form, so now it's asking me to connect to data, what I want to connect to. So I'm going to connect to what I just added. So I'm going to click connect right here. On the right hand side, you have this data source. If you click here, here's my list, SharePoint list, and I'm going to click onboarding. So give it a second there, and there's my form. Now let's run this. It's right up here on the top. If you preview this, ooh, look at that. No items to display. And the reason is because this is an edit form. This is when the user wants to edit the form, meaning that the data exists. So they want to edit any existing data that they had. So we don't want that. What we want to do is we're going to use that later, but what we want to do is we want to change this, come down here on the right hand side of this form, and we are going to change the default mode to new. So now when we preview, we're going to see our form. Preview, and there's our form. So now let's do a few things. I don't want that to keep popping up, so let's get rid of that. So let's do this. So what we're going to do now is we are going to change this to maybe a one column, or let's do two instead of three. So if you click on the form, see this columns, we're going to change it to two. Okay. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna change some of this stuff around. Let's get rid of some fields. So I'm gonna come here. We don't need this orientation values, these three. So we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of this. We're gonna get rid of this. We don't need the attachments either. Okay. Everything else we need. All right. So what we're gonna do now is, let's see, come back here. Okay. So now I want some of these fields to, let's stretch some of the stuff. So I want employee first name and that to be on the same line here. And so we have our job title. And what you can do is if you want to move things around, really, you can come up here, click on edit fields, and you can sort of move things around. So if I want work email to be up here, I can do that. I can have my start date there. I can have job title there, manager. Um, let's have his information there, office number there. Okay. Um, have you been to orientation yet? Okay, employee checklist. Okay, so that's what I want. Okay, now let's make this look a little pretty. I'm gonna come over here to my icons. I'm gonna scroll down, and I'm gonna add a rectangle. Okay, I could have created a component for that if I'm gonna have multiple screens that needs this, but I'm not. We're gonna keep this simple. Let me add some text here. Oops. Let me do that again. So we're gonna come here and a label I meant. So here's my label. And we want this to stretch the width of the background. And we're gonna come here to the left hand side, right hand side, and then, okay, let's make this a little bit larger. Let's see if this is good enough. 25, and then I'm gonna call this employee onboarding form. Okay, and let's change that text color to white. There you go. So now that we have this, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit prettier, and I'm going to bold this stuff here. And I'm going to pause the video and bold it all. I don't want you to. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've made each of these different fields bold. I also arranged it a little bit, so I have the question and these at the bottom. So what I want to happen here, I want this. So if this is yes, then I want these two fields to show. But if it is a no, I don't want it to show. So by default, I want these to be to not be visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and there are two places where you can change the properties of this, where you affect the visibility. One is on the right hand side where you see this here. Turn that off. And the other way is right up here in the top. And you can just come here. Look, these are all the different properties for that for this element. So if you go to view and you can just change this to false, and you can do the same thing to the other one. So you're gonna come here and we're gonna say false as well. Okay. So now let me preview it. As you can see, nothing is there. Get rid of that. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna come down here and we're gonna go to those two elements we just hit, which was employee checklist and orientation location. So we're gonna just select it and we're going to come to the visible. And as you can see, the visible expects a Boolean. And the Boolean is either true or false. So I'm going to put it, let me see what the name of this field is. Because what we're going to say is, okay, if this field here, if this drop down is equal to yes, then show it. If not, hide it. Because if it's a no, show it. Because if they haven't been to orientation, we want them to go to orientation. So we have to give them locations. So the way we're going to do that is, let me come here. I selected this so I can see what the name is. So I'm going to call this, let me change the name, orientation drop down. You want to get in the habit of putting names that make sense, because when you have lots of data cards, it can be confusing. So what we're going to do is come back down here, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go to the visible property, and I'm going to say if what was it called? Orientation drop down. We got that. So dots, because we're going to select the right properties now. So selected. Did I choose the right one? Let me come back here. Oh, I see an error. Orientation drop down. Yep, that's correct. What is this? Okay, so let me come back here. What is this one? Come back here. Visibility. Okay. Oh, that's why I picked the wrong name. So it's going to be orientation drop down dot selected items, and then you say dot value. So this is whatever value selected. We're going to say equal to. So if it's a no, then we want this to be true. So the visible property will be true, else it'll be false. Oops, false. So let's go over this. What is going on? Selected items, dot value. Let's see what's going on here. Dot. Let me say selected. Selected dot value. Okay, I picked the wrong one. So if the drop down, the selected value in the drop down is equal to no, then make it visible, else make it false. So if we come over here and preview, and if we come down here and we say yes, as you can see, nothing happens. And if we say no, this appears. So we say yes, nothing, no. So that way they can choose a location. So let's go do that for the other drop down. So here's our other drop down. I'm going to come here first. I'm just going to copy this, copy, and I'm going to come here, paste. So we want the same thing to happen here as well. Yes. There you go. No. Okay, so, all right. So it looks like we got that done. So um, in the beginning, I said this form is going to be, it's a new form. Really, it's not going to be a new form. I just wanted to show that to you. What it really, it is really going to be an edit form, because these fields are going to be filled out by HR. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this, and we can do that now. We want to change this, the display mode from edit to view. And you can see it's locked. So we're going to come here, unlock it. And then we're going to go back to properties, and we're going to change this. It's still not showing, but that's okay. We can come here and click on display mode. If you click on here, it'll take you to the actual property up here. So you remember you can get to the properties here in this drop down as well. So we're gonna come here. So parent.display mode dot, and we're gonna change this to view. And we're gonna do the same thing here as well. It's disabled, which means it's locked. So come here, unlock it, and we're gonna do dot view. We're gonna come here and do the same thing here. Unlock and properties, and we can just display. So dot view. Okay. So this is what we have. Let me preview this. Okay. I'm not bringing any data, that's why we're not preview it. But I'm going to show you that in a different video. But let me put this to new real quick. I'm going to preview. So this is what it'll look like. So when the new employee gets the email, they're going to have their name populated here. I mean, their ID populated here, that the HR generated, then the first name here, and then the employee name here. So stay tuned for the next video, and we're gonna go through that, and also we're gonna go through. We're gonna go to Power Automate. So we're doing everything in the next series of videos. We're gonna be jumping from Power Automate to Power Apps, and just showing you how I would build something from scratch, which is what I'm doing. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please on this particular video, please leave your comments below. And I will make sure that in the next video, I will answer any questions that you have. So I don't know everything, but if you ask the question, I can research and definitely have an answer for you if I can. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.